and I'm excited we are here to have a discussion about us having a supportive workplace. What are some of the best practices? We are going to be talking about this. And Ohima has already introduced them, and I'm excited about that because she has actually reduced our time. So I think we'll go straight to the point. Okay. Again, as we've been hearing our speakers, there is nothing else we can do. Women, we have to take up the fort. It's here with us, and we will not stop giving birth. We will not stop sitting by their side at the hospital. We'll keep doing that, and we'll still be working. But in all of these, we have to ensure that when we come to work, we still have to ensure work goes on successfully without us getting stressed out. So we want to find out what are some of the best practices when it comes to our workplace. How will the environment support us as women so we can be successful and climb up the ladder? So I would like to start with you, Mrs. Augustina Asari. If you can check. Can you hear me? Okay. If you can share with us, I'm sure in your field of energy, you've got a lot of men in that field. So we'll be glad if you can share some specific strategies or initiatives that you have implemented to empower women in your department, because I'm sure.
Thank you very much. Obviously, I didn't come alone. I came with a team from Ghana Gas for my department of government relations. Obviously, apart from Ghana Gas, I do other things. I'm a board chair somewhere, and I'm a president of Women's Network, you know, among other things. But for me, at least what my staff always say, that one of the things that they appreciate about what I do is the inclusiveness of how I operate. As far as I'm concerned, even if you are in national service, I deem my national service team as a full member of my department. So usually at the introduction, I tell them you're not here to pick us people's watches or run their personal errands. The only difference between the national service and the regular staff, perhaps is the commitment, the contract that they have, or even the salary. But as far as what they are learning, as far as their input and their contribution, they're equally important and valuable as the regular staff. So for me, that is one, as a leader, I believe that as the head of the department, I don't consider myself as a boss. You don't want people to just take instructions of what you do, but what you want is for them to adapt and then basically, if you will, follow the direction and the leadership that you provide. And that means by living also a certain example. I give my staff a lot of flexible time. I think it's very important, even though we have 9 to 5, or I should say 8 to 5 working hours. I think it's very important that when I need them also to go extra mile, they are willing to do that, meaning do beyond 5 o'clock. But that also means that I also need to give something in return, meaning there are moments where they need a day off. I won't let them right for leave days, but I'll give them maybe a day or 2 extra to do their thing. The former speaker was talking about not believing in work balance, but it's a matter of choice. But I do believe that it's one and the same, really, because that choice is that will basically translate into the balancing. Because as much as, the society demands a lot from women nowadays. I think back in the days, being I should say, a stay-at-home mom was like, if you will, a privilege for the husband, because rich people with husbands, their wives don't work. But now, in this current dispensation, not working as a woman, basically you're deemed as not being quite beneficial to your husband or to your family. So we expect to be professionals, we expect to be excellent wives, we expect to be good partners, to be good mothers, career women, and all of that juggling in between where it's almost no room for failure. Usually, and excuse me for using even politicians as an example, mostly when men do things in the society, they don't really get punished for it. But a woman in the political space will do less, but then the whole society will go after them. There's the demand that we place on women. That's what I believe, that when we are able to balance our lives, take into consideration, the challenges, but also the uniqueness in our being a women, but also professionals. I think that will really help us to come a long way. I want to talk shortly, but so I will summarize what I've done so far and all the things I've done. I've put a team together that when I'm not there, and there have been moments that because of illness, I'm out, but my department runs as though I'm there. And sometimes my boss jokingly says, well, Augustina, if you can be away 2 weeks and nobody really misses you, well, actually, then you're really not really an important factor. And I rather believe that in my absence, the department should collapse. And that can only be based on the skill set, the mentorship, and the leadership that I've provided for them.
You have given us more to get. As she said, there are so many things we are dealing with as women, from home, at work, and even in the social space. So, Ms. Nyano, can you share with us some of the best practices for promoting work-life balance, even though she did mention some of them? If you can still share with us some of these things we can put in place. Thank you.
In our society now, in the workplace, a woman in the workplace, like she said, before it was like a luxury, not a luxury per se, it was good for a woman to just stay at home and do all the things that needs to be done to support the man. And it was valued as well. But in our society today, we women have to come out of our homes for various reasons and also compete in the workspace equally, not in competition with the men, but so that we can also feel valued, and our children and people would recognize our contribution to the society. So having said that, what do we do so that these best practices that we can find ourselves in these places and still function very well and do other things? I would say it's important that our workplaces acknowledges the difference between the two genders and our responsibilities differently. We talk about equality, but I think that we should also talk about equity. Strategies I'll come back to is that, for instance, my company provides a daycare in our office, so that if you finish your 3 months maternity leave and you still need to come to the workplace, you can come with your child and you go and breastfeed intermittently and you still have that connection with your child. That is acknowledging that we women are different. We need to take care of our children. No man can breastfeed.
That's awesome. That's a supportive environment.
Yes, no man can breastfeed. So I cannot say that, because I'm also a working man, a woman, I need to leave my child. I need to acknowledge the fact that I'm a woman. I need to take that responsibility. But my workplace should also acknowledge that I need this support. So that is, in that vein, I'm being included. I feel supported, I'm being included, I'm being, there's diversity. So me as a woman, I don't find it so challenging to work in that environment and contribute my full quota. I would also compete equally when it comes to performance appraisal. I'll be there because I'm present, I'm working. I don't want, in the case that I'm spending more time at home, but I expect that when it comes to appraisal, I should be seen as working as equal as my male counterpart. So that's one. The other one is that we ourselves as women, in our workplaces should be able to give us that opportunity to advance and also see ourselves that we can work as equally as the men and be able to do like my speaker said, sometimes we don't sell ourselves as much as we need to sell ourselves. And we have different phases. I employ 50% women and 50% like equal, and about 3 of them go on maternity leave. What becomes of my team? And one says, my child is sick in the hospital, I have to attend to it. In that vein, our men, they are sitting here supporting us today. A lot of them are taking up those roles where I hear men in my team telling me, my child is sick, I need to be there with them. And I clap for them a lot because that is the time that these things, sickness will be taken away from women. If the men are also sick, looking after sick children, then I will not be saying I'm employing women alone. So that's, I think that's the strategy. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. Okay, so I work at Textiles Ghana. So we're the distributors, the manufacturers and distributors for GTP and for Woodine, and we also distribute Vlisco in Ghana. So for me, I've been at the company for around 18 months, maybe 20 months. So I was new into living in Ghana. I am a Ghanaian, but I wasn't born here. So I'm new to living in Ghana, new to working for a Ghanaian company. So I've had a lot of, ups and downs. So in terms of the sector that I look after, it's the retail sector. So all the retail shops, the e-commerce website that we've newly launched, and then some of the digital aspects as well, such as our photography unit. So for me, the biggest challenges I would say is communication. Okay. And the reason this was a challenge is because of the previous culture in the company. I think before, people were not feeling comfortable to be open and actually speak about how they're feeling, what's bothering them, if they're having challenges. So one of the key things that I do is I foster an open communication. For me, you can tell me anything, whether it's good, whether it's bad. If you have something negative to say about me, it's fine. I hope that you say it in a respectful way. But I like that feedback, because if you don't give me that feedback, I cannot adapt myself in order to work better with you. And it's the same way that I give to the people that I work with, my colleagues. I like to foster an honest environment where I can give them feedback in that moment, rather than waiting until performance appraisal and then it's a shock for everyone, to actually tell them, this is something that you've done really well in, keep doing this, or this is something that hasn't gone so well, but actually these are the things, these are the steps that you can take next time in order to do a better job. So for me, the key thing has been communication and trust as well, which comes with that.
Yeah, that's good. So it's always good if we are leading as women, we try to encourage, especially the women with us, to actually take up some challenges. And if there's need for guidance, we need to guide. That's what I'm getting from what you're saying. Thank you very much. Let me come back to you, Mrs. Augustina.
Thank you. I think a few of them have been already mentioned by all of us, basically. But what I do believe, the company that I work for, the National Gas Company, is we produce gas, we process gas, and then we also transport to give to other companies to power. So by the virtue of some of the gas that we produce, then we get electricity. And it's indeed a male-dominated company. When I joined the company, I also moved outside, to join. That was my first company ever in Ghana. I won't say zero, but it was not up to the task. And it's quite problematic if you look at the percentage of women in Ghana as opposed to the percentage of men. However, it also has to do with the type of profession. So what we are doing is to encourage more women to do that. Before I answer your question, one of the things that we do, because of Chris Mistress is sitting here, that's why I'm giving this example. We also have an educative program called the Gas Challenge, which last year she graced the occasion for us, where we also have a Chris Mistress who's an engineer from KUST. And in that, we try to put this affirmative action there, where we require the school to bring more female contestants, where we also encourage the schools to bring more female coaches who are lecturers at their schools, as a way of being an example for those coming. I must say, last year when we did our 4th edition, from the whole Technical University, for instance, they were all female contestants, and that was the first time we ever had all female contestants. And we realized that based on the policy that we communicated with the schools, that also, realized that they need to poke more women, but that also means that they need to encourage the women, but they needed to see some examples, and they saw some examples in the quiz mystery, examples in some of the lectures who also present as coach, but also we, the women who are leading, because most of the team members are all consist of women, even in an energy-related industry. But to come back to your question, so we do a lot of peer-to-peer activities. I'm not HR, so I don't want to speak for the HR, but I can only speak for what I do in my department and my other work that I do. So currently, in my other work that I do as a board chair, we have launched the Women Empowerment Program, where we are doing, number one, peer-to-peer, mentorship, but also mentorship whereby you have women who are more experienced as opposed to those who are, younger, in order to see some form of example in them and to encourage them. There are so many hurdles that growing up you may not know, but those who have made the steps ahead of you can basically take you along. I also, most of the time, tell to myself that there's some mistakes that I made. If I had somebody that I could look up to, somebody that was advising me that, okay, Augustina, if you take this step to left, these are the consequences, these are the pros, perhaps I would have made different choices. And I believe that as a women, we have a responsibility to bring along the young people and try to minimize the mistakes that we made so that they don't fall into the same mistake. I believe as a parent, the last thing that you want is your child to make the same mistakes that you make. And I don't believe that parenting only limits to your own children, but also the women and the people that you meet along the way. So by giving all these, type of support, I believe is one of the critical things that it needs to be done. I believe that she mentioned when it comes to open communication in my department, it doesn't really matter what you want to talk to me about. I give room for professional development. I give room for personal growth. I also give room for, even if you're having challenges privately, that perhaps might limit you in producing, because I demand a lot from them. I'm open, and usually they come to me with it, and I'm very flexible in making sure that I take their uniqueness, their private lives also into consideration by identifying also the limitations that they may also have professionally, because the fact that somebody may not be good at something doesn't mean that they can be good at something else, but you also then pair them with somebody that may be able to encourage them where they fall short, and then based on that, give them feedback, because that's very important that you mentioned that as well. Whilst you're mentoring, if feedback is not given, it's pointless, because the person may not be able to earn something, but it's also a way of giving feedback, but that's another topic altogether, because the fact that, again, I think you will agree with me, because you had a foreign education, giving feedback is a whole different process altogether than sometimes how people might see it. So not to talk too much so that other speakers can also speak. I think I will end here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you have said a lot. And Ms. Nyano, technology. We can do technology. How can we leverage on technology to create a supportive work environment?
Thank you for the question. I think, I would say that the pandemic, the only good thing it has left behind is that it has leapfrogged us into this age that we have come. We are still hopeful of much more in technology. I will start by saying that internet is one tool that has brought us this far. With the internet and when the pandemic set in, the internet was our go-to. We could do everything via the internet, and the MTN provided connectivity. So I will mention that we provided connectivity for you to work from home, and some of us are still working from home certain times of the day. So technology can aid us as women. It helps us a lot. I am sure I told some people that there are people who got pregnant during the pandemic that we never saw. And they went on maternity resume that we never knew about. And I personally, as a woman, I got all those messages, that the things that people say when you are pregnant and you are walking about, and all that in the office. But now we women can go and sit at home, work from home comfortably, have a peace of mind, and deliver without anybody stigmatizing us because they don't see us behind the screen. They only see our delivery. So internet is one great thing that we have today that we can use. The second thing is this small thing in our hands. I remember when I was in Finance some few years back, we had the server room full of servers, and they were doing super. Now this can do the same thing and much more. So with this, women has a powerful tool in hand, and like my quiz minister said, if we have education as basic as a secondary school education, we can do a lot with this one. So technology brings to us women the flexibility to be what we want to be without necessarily have to go extra mile to do it. So this is one tool. And the social media, I will conclude with the social media. It's also sitting in the internet and the apps and everything, but social media gives us women the opportunity to go and speak about our issues, to be able to talk about them and bring sensitization. There are a lot of efforts now in organizations being taken deliberately. They make deliberate effort to take our opinion into the boardroom, even when we are not there, because we are shouting on the social media. Our numbers are high. So as we shout and we talk about our issues on social media, even when we are not present in decision-making tables, our voices are heard. So these three things, I think, are strategies that we can make use of and leverage on the opportunities.
Let's give it to it. Thank you very much. Last but not the least, I would like to find out from you, as a female leader in your industry, what can you do to foster a supportive environment? Can you also share with us some more of that?
Okay, so I would say one of the number one thing is empowerment. When your colleagues or employees feel empowered, there's this sense of trust, there's this sense of respect, there's a sense of a burst of energy where they're actually going to contribute 100% to their working environment. And that can then lead on to bigger and better things, which is knowledge sharing. And the knowledge sharing can lead on to great ideas. And those great ideas can lead on to things that can turn your business around, or things that can bring a new stream of revenue into the business, or things that can actually become more positive for the future generation of that workforce. So I think empowerment is really, really key in order to building a supportive environment. The other thing I would say as well is flexibility. So I think you touched on the flexibility, but if, for example, you have a colleague who maybe they're having a health and they need from home and they can't physically come to the office, you could have some employers where, well, if you don't come, then that's it, bye. But for me, it's about having that emotional intelligence to really understand what is happening with that person, having that empathy and that sympathy with that person to then adapt their working environment so that they can still deliver at 100% of their best. So that's what I would say.
Thank you very much. With this, we are coming to the conclusion of our discussion. I'm sure there are so many takeaways. As women, especially leaders in this room, we have to ensure that we are able to bring up other women that are with us up, ensure that we encourage them, give them challenges. Let's not say that, oh, these people, they're always shying away, so we are going to leave them out. Let's challenge them, let's encourage them, and ensure that we bring them to the top. Coming here right now, some of my colleagues were like, hey, why are they bringing us to the front here? We are shy, we are shy. Women, if we keep being shy, how are we going to get to the top? Let's stop being shy and take up the challenges. And our administrators, so also, I have my administrator here. please make the environment conducive for us. Let's learn from MTM so we can have some nurseries around and then be able to breastfeed our kids and still work. Because look, we are the ones bringing the men up. We are the ones bringing the women up. If we're able to do this and make the men become men and become what they are becoming, the managers, the CEOs, we should be able to take up these positions as well.